Hey, bookish friends! I have a bit of a different video for you today because I thought it would be fun to go over my shelves and tell you what my favorite books were before 2020 and I discovered BookTube. So these are ones that I read more than once in my teens and my early 20s, and I I'm interested in trying some of these again to see if they hold up now that I've discovered so many other new fun authors. I will start with, I can't count Cry of the Raven because that came out in 2020. But I can talk about Mark of the Raven and Flight of the Raven by Morgan L. Bussey. I read these in 2019, I think. I found out about them from Chantel. This is like one of the first recommendations I read because of her. And we have Lady Celine, whose family are dreamwalkers, but everybody thinks it's a gift that has died out, and her family does not use it for its intended purpose, and she's being trained to use it for its not intended purpose, and she's torn between family and tradition and what she thinks she should do instead. The next one I remember reading this one as a teenager, Just Ella by Margaret Peterson Haddix. We have a different retelling of the Cinderella story because this actually starts after she's already been chosen by the prince and she's being tutored in how to be a princess. We do get like the actual Cinderella story as more of a flashback, but I loved this one as a teenager. I read it many times. And I can't remember how many of Charlie N. Holmberg's magician books I read before 2020. Let me check this was the last one. Copyright 2018, and I know I pre-ordered this one, so I can talk about all four of them. The Paper Magician's the first one, and these three are these are a series. They go together, have the same main character. We have Sione. Why fantasy writers? Why do you always have to give us such difficult main character names? Maybe it's Sione, like peony? I don't know. But she's an apprentice, and she wants to be... You only get one material to work with, so paper, glass, plastic, rubber. I can't remember all the other ones. It's been a while since I've read these. And she gets stuck with paper, which she thinks is almost useless, but she very quickly finds out that that's not the case. And I really enjoyed these. I may have enjoyed the Plastic Magician more. We have a different main character. Alvy, yes. Nice, easy, except for the Brecken Mocker. At least the first name is one that you can easily pronounce, but I really enjoyed these as well. And my favorite author when I was a teenager was Carson Levine, one of them. Yes, I have 2 copies of Ella Enchanted, okay? This is the one I got when I was 14 years old, and I have read it so many times. The cover is coming off, and I don't want to permanently break it. So I bought another copy to actually read, but I don't have the heart to get rid of my original one that I fell in love reading. So I have both. And my other book that I read by her as a teenager that I really loved. Okay, I went through a phase where I took dust jackets off of books, and now I kind of regret it because now I have to remember what these books are about every time I loan them out to someone. But we have The Two Princesses of Bamar. Bamare? I don't know. Again, what's with the weird names? Anyway, we have... Oh, I can't even remember their names. And it's in first person. Meryl, one of them. Addie. Addie is our timid princess, and Meryl is her sister who wants to go off and fight monsters and win the day and go on a quest. But Meryl's the one who ends up getting the plague. And so Addie goes off trying to find a cure and has to face all of the things that she's been afraid of her whole life. And I really enjoyed it. Okay. And then I don't know if you can see my other favorite author from when I was in my early 20s is Robin McKinley. And I can't remember which of these I wrote down. I know the first book I read by her, and one of my favorites, is Beauty, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And what else can I say without giving away what makes it special and giving spoilers? Except that our Beauty thinks she is very plain and not beautiful, and that plays a part in the story later on. And the other one that I'll just pick up and read bits of here and there is The Blue Sword. This, I think, is a nod to the English and taking over, I think, India and such. And so we have some characters who are the natives who have their own special culture with magic and horses. And then we have Harry, who she goes by Harry because her name is like Angrid or something like that. She moves from the homeland to this country. I can't remember if her parents died or what, but her brother is a soldier and he's stationed there. He's an officer, actually. And so she moves there, and then she ends up amongst the natives for reasons I will not spoil, and learning their culture and learning how to ride a horse and learning how to fight. And again, it's one I enjoyed in my early 20s, and I still pick it up and read. All right, I'm down a level. Hopefully you can see me. I do have The Storyteller's Daughter by Cameron Doki. This is a retelling of the story of Scheherazade and in 1001 Nights. We have Scheherazade who sacrifices herself, and then to prevent being beheaded, she starts telling stories to the king. And wouldn't you know it, every night ends on a cliffhanger, so he spares her for one more night to hear the rest of the story. And so we get little snippets of stories throughout the story. I think the way Scheherazade tells stories is fascinating. And I originally read this in my teens, and then I remembered in my late 20s or maybe early 30s that I loved this book and I wanted to track it down and read it again. And I did, and I loved it again. So this is probably the best one of Cameron Doki's books, but she has rewritten several fairy tales. And then, of course, like any kid who grew up in the early 2000s, I read Harry Potter. I have the first 4 books here, the illustrated editions. I haven't bought the 5th one because I didn't like the 5th book, and I'm not sure I'll ever reread that one. And then I found out they're not doing the last 2. So now I have some beautiful books, but I will never have a complete set. And now I have to decide if I want to keep these and collect another edition, or if I want to get rid of these and collect another edition, or what I'm going to do. I haven't decided. So here we have the first 4. Let's see what else we have. Oh, okay. Is it a favorites fantasy video without Kate Stradling? I can't remember when I discovered her. I know I came across her books one time when I had a Kindle Unlimited subscription trial. And the first one I read by hers is The Legendary Inga. Let me tell you, it is worth reading the author's notes for her books. And this one, where is it? The preface. The preface. You definitely want to read the preface before you read the book, because it will give you an even better appreciation for the story, which is, she takes the story of Beowulf and she's like, what if Beowulf didn't want to marry the king's daughter? What if Beowulf wasn't even a guy? What if it was a girl who had been in the forest trying to take care of her family, and so she's dressed as a boy so she doesn't get, the skirts don't get in the way and stuff, and happens to kill the monster, and they take her to the king, and the king insists she's a boy even though she's not. And it's quite good, and I've loved other of her books, but I think those came after 2020. But this is a good place to start. And also in my quest of tracking down books I remember enjoying as a teenager and rereading them as an adult in my 30s and having children of my own, I have The Rumpelstiltskin Problem by Vivian van de Velde, or Van de Velde. I don't know how to say her name. It's a lot of V's. And this is 6 short stories that are all reimaginings of the story of Rumpelstiltskin and how that story could have been a little bit different. So they're each a little bit different. I am pretty sure the second one was my favorite. Let me take a peek here. But anyway, worth trying. And I have since discovered that I like some more of her books. She's a bit hit and miss for me. I really like some of them. Some of them are meh, and some of them are like, what is this? I'm never going to read that again. So I've bought my favorites. And then we have Patricia Reed was one of my favorite authors in my 20s, and the first book in the series I read as a teen is Sorcery and Cecilia, or The Enchanted Chocolate Pot, and this is all told in letters, I believe, between 2 cousins. I think one of them is in London and the other one is in the country, and they're both coming across some pretty sketchy stuff going on with magic, and this is the tale of them figuring out what's going on and consulting each other through letters. And let me see if there's a year, 1817. And I didn't know until later on that it was a series, and so I ended up reading the other 2 books in my 20s. And I think I especially want to reread The Mislaid Magician or 10 Years Later, because they are married and have children in this book, and so I want to see what I think of it reading it now, having my own children. And by the same author, we have The Enchanted Forest Chronicles, which is actually 4 books in one. The first one is dealing with dragons, and we have this princess who doesn't want to be married off to the highest bidder, so she goes and finds herself a dragon, and she's like, dragon, I'll work for you if you keep the knights and princes I don't want to marry away. And dragon's like, yep, sounds good to me, and they get along and form this friendship, and I thought it was lovely and magical and whimsical, and I enjoyed that in my teens and 20s, and I do still enjoy that in my 30s. But now that I've discovered authors, even more authors that might write better, I want to reread at least the first or maybe the second one. I think I remembered liking the second one the best. But yeah, that's the end of the fantasy shelf. These were some of my favorites in my teens. early 20s, late 20s too, because I was 29 in 2020. So let me know which of these you think I should reread to see if they're still good. And do you remember any of your favorite fantasy books from when you were younger? And I'll be back with something else next week. So happy reading.